All right, welcome everybody. Next up, what we have here is 3 proven keys to success. This is a live podcast with Joe Jones and Dave Chapman. Joe Jones!
Dave, we're talking about success, right? We've had high school students. My oldest son is graduating high school next month. And, you know, it's a difficult time in your life. You're trying to decide where you want to go, what you want to do. And I think the topic that we had talked about was being successful in your career, and what do you have to do that. And kind of one of the precursors to that, I think, is this whole notion around following your passion. I know you're a big fan of Mike Rowe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he talks about being a person that, instead of following your passion, just be a passionate person and follow the opportunities. Right. And I think that's true, but where people get hung up on is like, all right, what do you do? How do you get that?
Where do you create it?
Where does
it start from?
Where does it start from? So I'll tell you a quick story. When I was in middle school, I was asked to spend a summer with my father, who owned a plumbing business, and so all of my other friends in school, they're doing fun stuff in the summer. They're going to the beach, they're going on vacation, and I'll be honest with you, I was very bitter. You know, a rebellious little middle schooler, and
you're not still rebellious anymore?
Maybe a little bit. But so our days would start at 5:30 in the morning. We'd get in the pickup truck, and 5:30 in the morning, it's dark, and I'm sitting there thinking, I don't want to be here, but I have to be here. So out of obligation and sheer force, I would just go to work every day. And after about a week of doing this, my dad gave me some really good advice in a very strong way. He said, look, I know you don't want to be here, but act like you do. He said, put on a mask, act like somebody who wants to be here. If someone wanted to be here, how would they act? What would they act like? I want you to act like that person. And I thought about it, and so I decided, all right, they would smile. They wouldn't complain. They would look forward. And it seems like a simple thing, but what he was telling me is have a good attitude. So I had to show up. That was a given. If I didn't show up, he would drag me out of bed, right? But then when I had a good attitude, it made all the difference. And so the 3 things that we talked about, if you want to be successful, whatever you do, whether it's plumbing, heating and air, or anything you want to do. You want to do video editing. You got a great crew here that's done some stuff like that. My son's interested in that. I said 3 things you got to do. You got to show up. And there's a lot of people that don't even show up. If you show up, you've got some progress there, right?
Right.
But then if you go one step further, number 2, and you show up with a good attitude, well, now you're in the upper echelon, right? Because some people show up and they don't have a good attitude. You got to work with that. You show up with a good attitude, now you're really taking off. And then the final thing, and I know this is what you're big on, Dave, is grow. When you're there, you grow. So you show up, you have a good attitude, and then you grow. And growth is a very individual thing. It's a very unique thing. It is.
It's about that much more hard work than what you're doing already. So how many times we see people just working their way, but they're not acting that little bit extra to grow themselves.
Yeah, or comparing yourself, so, a lot of people are competitive. They look at other people, how can I be competitive? And when you start something new, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's very humbling. You don't know anything. As an adult, I started taking piano lessons. And that is very humiliating.
I've actually watched them on YouTube and Facebook. I've seen them on there. It's awesome. They've done a great job.
But you start with nothing. You know nothing. So think about it. You feel like, hey, I've been in one industry for 23 years. I feel like I know a couple of things over 23 years. But you start doing piano and I know nothing. I know what do I do with my hands? And the name of the book my instructor gave me is Elementary. You start at the bottom. So a lot of people don't learn new skills because they're not willing to humble themselves to do it. Because you will start here. And when you're very competitive and you're starting out, you're like, who do I compete with? Everyone around me is better than me. Everyone, take my plumbing example. All the plumbers knew more than me. I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't even know how to dig a ditch. They hand me a shovel. I'm the parts runner. They told me to get a part. I didn't even know what the part was. So you know nothing, and so it's humiliating. And if you're competitive, it's very humiliating because no one wants to be in a field that you can't compete in. And I think the key to growth is know your competition. And your competition aren't the people around you that are great. Your competition is yourself from 3 months ago.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Are you better than that person?
Yeah, that's right. How many times you see that? And you made me remind me of a story I remember hearing about an old knight and an aspiring young knight that wants to be a knight. He just wants to be. He sees this old knight, he sees all the battles, all the glory, all this stuff. And so what he does is he simply goes to this knight to be mentored by this knight. And he spends 3 years learning how to move the sword, how to move the body, how to use leverage and use their hips and all kinds of stuff. And he keeps talking to the knight. And he says, old knight, he says, am I a knight? He's like, no, you're not a knight. He goes, well, I'm ready to be a knight. He's like, you're not ready to be a knight. And every day, finally the knight said, fine, get in that boat right there. He's like, what does it have to do with anything? To put your sword down, get in that boat. And they got in this boat, and they started old knight rowed him out in the middle of the lake. He says, all right, you want to be a knight? Are you sure you want to be a knight? He's like, yeah. He said, well, then jump in the water. He's like, oh man, why would I jump in the water? Because I'm telling you to jump in the water. So he jumps in the water. And as soon as he does, the old knight grabs his head and shoves him underwater and holds him underwater, just like that. Holds him down. And the arms are going like this, and first it's like nothing, and all of a sudden it gets really frantic and crazy and all that kind of stuff. And just about when the arms go limp, the young knight grabs him, pulls him by the hair, pulls him back up, and he's throwing up water and gasping air and stuff. And he's like, what are you doing, old man? He says, listen, when you want to be a knight as bad as you just wanted air, you'll be a knight. Right? That's another piece you're talking about right there.
Yeah. Wow, well that's convicting.
I'm not saying draw on your team. Don't draw on your team, you know? Yeah, that's right. You want to be an installer? Come here, get in the boat.
So it's a baptism by fire. This is baptism by water.
That's right.
Wow.
Sorry.
So yeah, that is true. Like, I think you're hitting on something pretty profound though, because you know we're talking on a subject around young adults trying to decide what they want to do, and a lot of them they have a lot of passion. They see things that they want. I remember having the privilege of getting to go to what we call Rookie Review at UTD, University of Texas, the Dallas campus, and these are very bright, talented young adults who have just completed sales college courses, and so they know, they're book smart on how to sell. They know all the closing techniques and what to say and whatnot. And I meet with them. Some are very talented, and you ask them what they want to do, and it's interesting. They want, in some form or another, I can summarize what they really want is they want to be famous. They want their picture, they're interested in real estate because, well, your picture could be on there. Yeah. Your picture's on the card. They want to be a influencer on social media. They want people to know their name, and they want that, kind of like the young man that wanted to be a knight, and how badly they want that. But that's kind of like back to Mike Rowe. He's talking about passion. You have this passion, but people become passionate about what they see around them. The opportunities that really exist that are needed right now, the skills that are needed in our country right now that we need more of, are not glamorized, yeah. Right? But they're incredible opportunities. And if there's an individual who could, rather than looking at passion, saying I'm going to chase after passion, if there's an individual that said, I can do anything that's a great opportunity, and I will bring my own passion. That's that attitude that you show up with. You will be very successful in whatever skill you go to.
Yeah.
I talked to an individual that his sons are learning diesel mechanic. Diesel mechanics, starting off, if you can work on a diesel engine, you're making 6 figures.
That's crazy.
That's incredible.
For a little bit of oil. A little bit of fuel on you.
But is your name going to be in lights? Probably not.
Right.
But you're gonna make a good living, and you're gonna help people.
Right.
Where would we be if we couldn't get?
So let me just jump in, because I wanted to ask you, like, one of the things I've been so impressed with learning from you and watching you come in is, I saw you as a district manager in Florida, and you blew that up, and then you came in inside and you blew that up, and now you're the head of you took Mike Moore's spot, which we love to have you there. Yeah. It's a great spot to be in, and your ideas, the university, and all these kinds of things. Where did all that background come from? I mean, your story is amazing, first of all. I don't know if these guys have ever heard that. Would you mind sharing pieces of that that really line up with what you're talking about?
What in particular?
Well, kind of how you decided to get into this industry.
I was born on a cold winter's
No, it's not boring at all, I'm telling you. We all think our story is boring, but his is not boring.
So, well, I mean, my story is pretty simple. I think I touched on it with working with my dad in the plumbing industry, but I think part of the challenge is that I ran into was this whole concept over why people do what they do, and I kind of believe that people, if you're doing something, you're doing it for one of two reasons. You're doing it because you're obligated to do it, or you're doing it because you love to do it, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't do it, right? Those are kind of like the two reasons. Well, I have to do it. I got some type of obligation. My boss is making me. My dad is making me.
Yeah. You allow that.
Or I'm passionate about it. But I think the problem with the headbutting I had was, coming from a broken home. I was raised by a single mom, and I had three sisters and my mom. My brothers were older, but they were much older, and so they left the house. And so that kind of feeling of, it's an obligation that my father had to say, my obligation as a father is to teach you how to work, right? And so out of obligation, it was, you're going to get out of bed at 5:30 in the morning, you're going to get in this truck, we're going to go learn how to dig a ditch and run plumbing, right? And it's difficult for people to overcome that, because what's much better is if someone loved you. Like, hey, I love you enough, I see potential in you, and I think you can do some things, and you go about things differently. So I think everyone has that, because there's going to be people in your life that aren't expressing love to you. They're just doing things out of obligation. And Dave, one of the things that I've noticed, and it was so much Scott Lindsay had a comment on it, when you came up here on stage, people don't always remember everything that you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And you made me feel like you loved me. You said it. You said it to this audience. You said, I love you. In a professional environment, you just don't hear that.
Yeah.
You just don't hear that. But I think you mean it.
Well, I'll share a quick story on that, inside that. I've had two close friends that passed away. I never had the chance, never was the man enough to tell them how I felt about them, and it still bothers me today. So I made this promise to myself going forward, if stop being a man's man, stop being John Wayne, just get out there and love people, let them know that they're okay, that you love them, So I made that promise to myself. So yeah, I hope I didn't offend anybody on that. But thank you. That's cool. That's cool.
But I thought that was great that you did that, and you were real. I would like to think that people can pick up on it, but I think it's important that, for some people you have to affirm that, but to actually say it and say, but even if you don't say it, express it. And I think for everyone, we're talking about these three simple things. We're talking about showing up, having a great attitude, and growing. And, why do you show up? So that's kind of where the attitude comes in from. Do you show up because, well, I'm the district manager and I'm responsible, I got to grow this district and I got to meet these sales numbers, and so you show up out of obligation. Yeah. You're obligated. You have to do it. That's most people. That's that's the district manager for brand X, right?
Well, I think a long time ago, our people have thought about, I can choose what I want to do now, and that's where people are choosing right now. Do I come to work, or do I not work, or do I see if I get a paycheck coming to me from somewhere out of space? I don't know, but our businesses are struggling getting people to come to work, right? I mean, it's really difficult, and you're seeing it everywhere in any industry at all.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's making that commitment decision.
It's kind of the fake it till you make it syndrome too. I mean, when you're dealing with an industry like HVAC, I mean, I started as an installer. When I graduated, I went to work for my brother's company. Like, hey, my brother owns this company. It's got over 100 employees, pretty successful. He's going to put me in an office, right?
So amazing.
It's like, again, it's humility. Like, yeah, you worked with Dad doing plumbing. You don't know anything about heating and air. You got to go get in the attic. So for 2 years, I had to do installs. And you get rock wool insulation. It's humiliating. But the key is fake it till you make it, because you're not going to instantly be passionate about something like that. I'm not, well, right. I would love crawling around in attics. You're not going to love that. No one's ever going to love that, right? But
join her team, you get to sweat.
But there is a love that comes. There's a passion that comes in growing and being good and saying, well, now I know how to do this. Now I'm accomplished. I can snap pipe like nobody's business. I can wrap this insulation. I can look at this and understand how to run this. And there's something in becoming an expert in that. There's an accomplishment that comes in that. There's a passion, and there's a lot of things you can do to make a buck. And a lot of people do things that are iffy. You know, the folks that call you up about your automobile warranty, I wonder about. But when you start your day off and you're not in an office, you get in a vehicle, you drive to a person's home, and this person's going through a really bad day. They don't have any air conditioning, they don't have any heat, they're miserable in their home, and then you show up, and you get up there, and you work, and you earn it, and you know what you're doing. You're doing something that very few people can do, and you install the equipment, you install the ductwork, you get it fired up, and now all of a sudden a family has heat, and a family has air conditioning.
It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling.
That's the love, right?
That's the love, yeah.
Everything else becomes tolerable.
Yeah.
And the love comes there, right? In what you were able to accomplish, the passion that you have in it.
Right. So it's show up, have a great attitude, and grow. That's simple. So let me ask you something, and I'll ask Jeff Lumpy over here. And Pat, can you throw a microphone at Jeff? I'm going to put Jeff on the spot for a second.
Dave, I've noticed you're good at putting people on the spot.
Yeah,
by the way.
Well, we do. And you know, Jeff is a successful business owner. He's in a small community, and just so you know, he's grown a really good, strong team, and he also is very high-end signature sales, right? So it's a choice. Nice. He's making a choice. My question for you, Jeff, when we get the microphone working here, is are you seeing with your team showing up, a good attitude, and growth, those three things?
One of the things I want, is this podcast something we can re-listen to?
Yeah.
Good. Because there's a lot of little pieces. Is it that way every day? I didn't want to overblow it, but is it that way every day? That's something that I'm striving for, because offering Signature Series is showing that love for our clients. That's what we do. We can give them air quality, comfort, life in their home. That's the love. So I'm going to have to say, yes, our team does do that. Do we do it the best we can do it? There's always room for growth, right?
So how do you do that as a leader? Are you inspiring that like Joe's dad did, or like Joe's brother did, or are you inspiring it like Joe said he's doing with his sons? And I've watched him growing his sons, and it's pretty darn impressive. Are you inspiring them every day? It's like your kids almost, like getting to work and here's some stuff you should be working on, or inspiring them.
That's something I truly need work on. Is as a business owner, we kind of tend to leave that go because there's too many other fires happening. But it is through, at our team meetings, we'll show what good people are saying, what customers. Oh, I had put this SLP in, and now our house is comfortable. Give the guys a feeling of that comfort. They're doing the right thing. So yes.
Well, I tell you, I put Jeff on the spot because I can tell you something. we get to see Jeff run his company, and he does a great job of inspiring his team. He believes in hardcore training. He puts himself through a lot of training, and you can see it from the top down, from the very top all the way down through the organization. And he's got his son here teaching classes right now.
Wow.
You know, you didn't have to tell him to go teach a class. He's like, I'll go teach a class. I'll help out. I'm going to share my information. So, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I like that you hit on something, because when we started talking about, folks coming in that are newer to the industry and kind of the 3 steps to success, but I don't think those 3 steps go away as you grow, right?
Yeah.
Because, you still have to show up. And look, I've had the opportunity of calling on a lot of different HVAC companies throughout my career, and I've had the privilege of working with some of the best in the industry, and I believe Lennox dealers are absolutely the best.
Yeah.
But I've also, went into some companies that struggled and are no longer in business. And I saw owners that just didn't show up. There was a company, they're not a Lennox dealer, but I showed up and where's the owner? He's in Costa Rica. Oh, is he on vacation? No, he's got a second house there. He's gone. I'm like, well, who's running the place? Well, he does. He's not there. He didn't show up. And then there's been owners that have bad attitudes.
Yeah.
They show up. I actually knew someone, again, not a Lennox dealer, but somebody I called on, and they hated what they did.
Yeah.
They did not want to be there, and everything they did was out of obligation. This individual married someone whose father owned the company, and then the father passed away and left it to the daughter, and now he felt like he had to step up, and he did. It's not something he wanted to do. And so out of obligation, he showed up. And what kind of leader is that?
A leader we follow.
A leader that didn't want to be
follows,
there.
for sure. They kind of get bored of following that person. They find somebody else that wants to lead.
And then that last part is growth, right? So let's say you do show up. And let's say you do love it. You love the company. You love the employees. Are you growing? I would say folks that would show up to an event like this are dedicated to growth.
Yeah.
They're networking and they're learning. But there's a lot that don't. There's a lot to say, well, they're happy with the status quo. This is how we've always done it. Blockbuster had that theory too. Hey, we've always put VHSs on a shelf, and people have always come and rented them, and we make millions of dollars doing it.
See ya.
But guess what? Things change. And when DVDs came out, they were easier to ship.
Yeah.
And Blockbuster didn't catch on board, right? So you've got to grow. We all have to grow. And that doesn't mean you have to climb a ladder, and that doesn't mean you have to switch positions, but growth can come in a lot of different ways. Growth can come just by adopting or adapting rather to the changing climate that you're in.
Right.
But those 3 things ensure success. When somebody fails, you can point, there's one of those 3 things. Either you didn't show up, you didn't have any passion or a good attitude, or you failed to grow or change.
Well, I'm going to grab on your attitude word for a second. Has anybody seen in your businesses, have you guys seen attitude shrink in the last 2 years during the whole COVID-19 situation, right? We're dealing with much more things internally. We're not able to get out and express those things like we're human beings, we're loving beings, and we want to be with people. Even if you think you don't, you need that interaction, right? So one of my daughters read this book called The Energy Bus, and I brought it up here just to show you guys. It's called The Energy Bus, and it's by John Gordon. And I brought it up because as Joe was taking me through these 3 topics, I thought he kept saying attitude and attitude, so I thought this is good. So I've been saving this book, and my daughter had her company read this, and so I waited until July of last year, and our district read this. We read 2 books a year as a district, right? And we read this one at the end. Why do we read it? Why did I pick till then? Just so you guys know, because everybody in my team's attitude was sinking. It was sinking, and guess what? They were following the leader. Mine was sinking, and so we dove into this book. Now listen, I'm not a reader, you guys. I'm a slow reader. I have to take notes and highlight. But as Pat would tell you, or Darren would tell you, or Mike would tell you, we simply took 1 page a day. 1 page a day. So in 30 days we did 30 pages, and we talk about those 30 pages in every single meeting we have of different groups. But the Energy Bus is all about a manager that has a really bad attitude, and he's got to sell an ad campaign to his company, and if he doesn't knock out of the water, he's done. He's fired. So what he does is his whole entire team, it's their fault. And so this whole process of getting on this bus, his car breaks down, he never fixes brakes, and I'm just giving you a little snippet. He gets on this bus, and the bus driver is amazing. And he thinks it's stupid, and he looks at all these very profitable and amazing people on this bus, like, why are you on this bus? But the whole thing is about us. The whole thing's about us inside of here, right? Right, Pat? I mean, and we walked it through during the hardest part of closing down our year and trying to get you all product. We had $15 million in open orders we couldn't fill. $15 million. And guess what? We got down to $3 million, which is more normal by the end of the year. But it took our team to elevate and learn more and do more. And this book helped us through it. So when Joe's talking about attitude, when I hear Joe talk about attitude, I keep thinking, is my attitude in check? And so I keep going to myself. I always go to myself, I just because I know I got to get better. But the book, you guys, if you share that book with your team, you read it together with your team, you're going to help them elevate through hard times. Pat, can you add anything for us to that?
I just have to say, it's probably one of the best books that I've read, one of the best books that we've read together as a team. A lot of it was just a lot of self-reflection. It just made me realize where I was at, and I wasn't in a place that I should be at. I mean, I feel like I should have been above that. And just as we talked through it as a team, more than anything, you realize what's really important. All I can say is it was a fantastic read.
Well, we could have used the three things that Joe was talking about. We were showing up. We were all showing up. But we didn't have the attitude in check. We really didn't. We were just kind of taking all of you guys being upset. We own that, right? And so we couldn't perform for you like we normally do. So we were stuck right there. We weren't going any further. So we weren't growing, like Joe said. Show up, attitude, growth. So and I don't think until here it started to click for us. They're like, okay, hold on a second.
So I love that you shared this, but what I'm taking away from what you just shared about this book and the Energy Bus, which I'm going to have to read this now. This is I think the third time you've mentioned it. I got to read this book now.
I'm not saying you got a bad attitude either. Like I'm following you.
But you know what? I invite you to tell me when I do, and because what I heard from what you said is, I heard accountability. Accountability is important. Like you asked the question about, do we always? Like, no, we don't always do this. Like, everyone has bad days. Everyone gets bad attitudes, right? But that's where accountability comes in. Who do you have that's going to hold you accountable? That you trust. That's going to say, hey, what's wrong, man?
That's a great point.
Yeah, you're showing up, but man, something's changed in you. Normally you're passionate. Normally you love having these meetings with me. Now it just seems like you're going through the motions, AKA obligation. You're doing it out of obligation. You used to do it out of love. What happened to your attitude? Who's there for you? Because everyone will get there. Yeah. There will be days when we all get there.
But every one of us as leaders needs to have someone to talk to and go back to, right?
Yeah. I had an opportunity to go through a course with Nancy Graves, and she worked with Dell and Dell Computers, and she coaches a lot of executives, and she would tell you that executives tell her all the time that the higher they move up, the more they have to pay for feedback, because the CEO always smells fresh paint kind of syndrome, like we've got to remodel because the CEO's coming, but no one wants to give negative feedback, right? To them, because what would be the ramifications? So as a leader, who do you have that you trust that's going to tell you the truth that, hey, I think you're going through the motions on this area. I don't think you're passionate in this area. Something's changed. I think you've got a bad attitude. You're showing up, but you're not here.
Yep.
You're not in the moment. You're not present.
So is that fun and painful, or is it just fun, or is it painful? My point. So I was fortunate enough when I started at Milwaukee Stove, short story. The owners were involved in the Luxair distributor council. So they had a meeting down in, I started in October and in February for Daytona 500 down in Florida. So there was a distributor meeting down there, and then one of the owners couldn't go. So he said, well, bring Dave. He needs to learn more about this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm right from the field. What do I know? And so Tom and I flew down there, and we get to the airport. There's supposed to be a limo that picks up, Lux Air dealers, distributors, and nobody was there. So Tom saw this guy walking on and goes, hey, are you Larry? He goes, yeah, you Tom? So they said, let's get a car. So they rented a car, and I'm sitting in the front seat. Now, I'm upset because the driver was really smelly. I mean, I'm telling you, I was going to throw up. It was really bad. But in the back seat, so they were fine back there, but Tom was laughing. He's like, he knew he put me in the front seat for a reason. It was like torture. So Larry goes, I never met Larry. He touched me on the shoulder. He goes, hey, Tom says he just hired you as a district manager. And I go, yeah. He goes, well, how did he find you? I go, well, have you heard steel chainsaws? He goes, yeah, they're like orange and white, right? He goes, yeah. I go, yeah. So I'm a lumberjack, and I was cutting down trees up in a tree in Eagle River, Wisconsin, and Larry was driving by, and he stopped. He says, hey. He waved me down. I came down. He goes, I want to hire you as a district manager. He goes, oh my God, that's amazing. And Tom's like, he goes, are you messing with me? Are you actually messing with me? And I'm like, sorry, man, I'm having a bad day. I was messing with him, big time. It's all made up, right? So from that point on, this business owner, at that time, him and his brother just bought the business from his father. They were small, $9 million distributor. Today they're over $100 million distributor in 7 states. But through that process of me being a little bit outward with Larry, he actually liked me. I couldn't believe it. So he's been my mentor for 25 years. And one day I said, Larry, I had to ask him, I said, would you mentor me, right? Because it's a process. You're talking about coaching that stuff. And he's like, well, let me think about it. And he came back and he says, well, here's the rules. If you want me to mentor you, you have to know that I love you first, and I'm going to tell you the truth so I can make you better. I want to make you what I can see you could be. Remember, I'm just a smart aleck. I'm just a smart aleck. So he will call me at times and say, hey, are you sitting down? And I'm like, oh, crap. So I'll have to sit down, and he'll tell me things that really are hard for me to deal with, right? It could be attitude, it could be passion, it could be a lot of things.
I love that story. Great story. And yeah, you can't be a smart aleck. That was free feedback. You didn't have to pay for that. But Dave, you hit on something, the power of a mentor. So did you actively seek out a mentor?
Absolutely. Well, then I did, because I didn't know what I was doing. I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing, right?
So I wonder how many in the audience, leaders here, how many have a mentor?
Guys?
You have a mentor?
Yes. Yes.
What do you seek from your mentor? What do you get? Anything you want to contribute?
Exactly what Dave said, love and truth. Obviously they have some skill set that I don't have. That's why I sought them out. But without those two things, I can't be open to hear anything else. So, and what they expect from me is willingness.
Yeah, I love that. She said, I expect love and truth. One of my favorite sayings, because we have a sales model at Lennox. We call it the signature sales model. And I'll let you in on it. We're designed to challenge you to be better. And so one of the sayings I love is truth without grace is mean, and grace without truth is meaningless. You have to have them both. If I showed up, you don't know me, I say, you're doing this wrong in your business, and you have a bad attitude, you would kick me out. you would do a Will Smith and come up and slap me.
Yeah.
But if I'm coming in the right setting, and I've proven to you that I care, I really want to see your business grow. I really want to see you succeed. I want the best for you. Then you can accept truth from me. So having a mentor, man, you nailed it. You nailed it. Having a mentor that you know loves you and that is willing to tell you the truth, because if all they do is give you grace, oh, you're so great at you're the best leader.
It's not
that
real.
That doesn't help you.
This is not real. We're human.
I mean, it's a flattery session at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I remember calling Larry. This is a really funny one. I called Larry. My family business was tanking badly. And I said, Larry, this is falling apart. And he's like, hold on a second, Dave, hold on. He said, what do you love more? Do you love your business or do you love your wife? I'm like, well, that's really silly. He's like, listen,
it's your business, right?
Love your wife, let her grow, stop being a pain in the fanny and just fund it. Just figure it out, stop. And it was hard. It was very hard. But the lesson is loud today as it was back then 15, 20 years ago. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, so we're talking about accountability and how it relates to holding us accountable to the three things that we know we need to do. That's showing up, having a good attitude, and growing. And so when you have someone that's saying, hey, in one of these areas, hey, you're absent, or hey, you're got a bad attitude, you're sour, or hey, you've been running status quo for too long, we need someone to tell us that.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very good call out that someone was able to do that you can trust. So I think a big takeaway is if you don't have a mentor, or if you don't trust your mentor,
then you have to get another one. So you have to get a different one that you can, yes. I mean, you can't have that line wave. They've got to be solid. They've got to be strong enough to be solid, right?
Yeah. And then structure that mentor session. So recently, my mentor is in the audience right now. Lenisa is here. Lenisa's been my mentor for about 8 or 9 months now. And so she's always very, very helpful to talk to. Like, you got a good mentor when whatever amount of time you have scheduled, doesn't matter what it is. Like it's never enough time. It's like, we got to end right here. It was just getting good. But Lenisa's helped me a lot as a mentor, and be a mentee and be a mentor and have a mentee as well.
Yeah.
So there's I as much as I learned from Lenisa as my mentor, I learn a lot also from mentees. So we have a M4D program at Lennox, Mentoring for Diversity, and there's a very talented a woman who's a manager in another business unit for Lennox that, like, our time was up. It was like 1 year, and I was like, well, our time is up to be a mentor. And she's like, no, we've got to keep. You can't not be my mentor anymore. But I learned so much from her, and we bounce ideas off each other, and there is this mutual relationship. And she told me the other day, she's like, you're off a little bit. What's wrong with you? This is my mentee, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to tell you. But I say all of that to say there's some great resources out there on what a great mentorship looks like and being structured, because it's going to be somebody like the guy you goofed off with and was a smart aleck with, and you're going to enjoy talking to your mentor, right? So how do you take that and how do you structure it?
Well, the first thing he did, I thought this was pretty unique, you guys. The first thing he did was he said, when he came back, he said, yes, but he emailed me a book. He goes, did you get the book I mailed? He goes, yeah, and why do I have this book? And I wasn't reading a lot back then, hardly at all. And he's like, read this book first. It's called Mentoring Matters. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I want you to mentor me. I'm not looking to be a mentor. He's like, no, you need to read this book. So I read this book. And the book's all about how to be mentored. How to be mentored. What does it really mean? How does it set up? How do you work through it? How do you stay open? How do you not take it so crushingly personal that you don't move forward? You know what I mean? So it was a really fascinating read to get me to move forward to be mentored. Because before that, like I said on stage, I thought I don't want to listen to anybody. I'll tell you what I'll do. But great leaders were first great followers, right? And that's my mentor that told me that.
Wow, I love that. I love that saying. What was the name of that book again? Mentoring Matters?
Mentoring Matters.
Mentoring Matters. It'd be a good one to pick up.
Yeah. And I think we're just about out of time here, Mr. Joe, because people are coming back in the room here. And was there anything that you could send us home with, you think?
I think it's a great reminder to myself and to everyone. Just put it simply. If it's a job worth doing, it's a job worth doing well. You're there, you're doing it. You're in this, right? You have a choice, like my dad told me. You're going to work with me this morning, right? You can choose to be miserable, you can choose to go through the motions, or you can act like someone who wants to be here, and you can have a good attitude. And when you choose to put on that face, and sometimes it's hard, And you fake it till you make it. But when you choose to do that, something amazing happens. And you learn, and you grow, and you connect, and then you inspire other people, and you make other people's day brighter. You talked about the attitudes, and then when the attitudes went sour, your attitude got sour. But a good attitude can inspire others as well. So you're in this business, you show up, bring a great attitude, and grow, and you'll have a happier life. You'll have success, and you'll grow. And you could do it out of obligation, or you could do it out of love, and it feels so much better to do it out of love.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That means a lot more too. And thank you, Joe. I want to thank Joe for his time and setting this up for us, and all you guys for participating. And to Jeff's your question over there about, can you hear this again? Joe and I have been putting together a platform. It's only your second time we've podcast together. In a couple of weeks, I'll be down in Dallas. We're going to do a series of them, and we want to build some base. And Ryan Cook back there, Ryan's back there by the table. He's doing all the editing. He's a great inspirator and leader.
He's hurting cats.
Yeah, and he's moving us through this thing and saying, I need a platform of some built, and then we're going to release them. But we got a little bit more work to do. But I can't wait to have them out there and have you guys' voice out there to help other people and lead other people, you guys. So thank you for being in the class today. Joe Jones, thank you for leading the way.
Dave, this has been an honor. Thanks, Dave.